Okay, right, so now it's the time for the kill boss with, what is it called? A Stab-Grot from Stormbringer issue 1. So, looks like it's another push fit model. I personally don't like push fit models. I think they don't always slide together and bond properly, but you know, have to deal with what you get. So, what I've got here, I'm going to start off. Now it looks like we need 1, 2 and 3 just kind of easily pop together. So let's start by getting these off. It kind of feels like, according to the instructions, we need to just slide them all together all at the same time. Now, straight away I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, you know what we have here is a very tall, beast lanky guy, okay, and I love the idea of that. Just very, you know, obviously you're mistaken for being not very strong because of how thin he looks, but then when you start looking at the size of the model overall, he's probably quite, you know, I'm sure when I compare his muscle mass to this Stormbringer in that Stormcast, as it were, in armour here this night, I'm 100% certain that I'm going to notice a big difference, and he's going to look huge. I can also see some trouble spots for cleaning up this model straight away. So there's lots of thin areas and hard to reach pieces to clip off and clean up. See right there, I've left a huge chunk on when I've been taking that off. Okay. Yeah, I can see there's going to be some problem points on this. It looks as well like you've got the mold line points. Got to be careful as well, because you might think something's a mold line, but with the weird way that this is, stuff that looks like mold lines is actually part of the design. So I'm trying to be very careful while I shave down the bits that are from cutting, to make sure that I don't accidentally take off something that is actually part of the design of the model. And of course you've got some very thin pieces of plastic here as well. So yeah, he's going to be essentially a bit of a pain, this one, to make sure he's tidy and clean. Right, gosh, so now comes this process, making sure that he's all clean. I want to make sure that I get all the nasty, horrible bits off. I have to admit though, I do love the style of this model. You know, obviously they're called Kruleboyz, and that really does come across in their design. Like, everything about them is designed to be spiky. And you know, they have some, I said, they hark back in some ways to a lot older types, and I do feel, personally, I feel that they're more hobgoblin, to be, if I'm quite honest. You know, so that kind of very lank, wiry strength of a hobgoblin. Again, that's a positive for me, and I'm not going to complain about that. I'll actually, when obviously when I first saw them, I was really worried that they were going to replace the big brute Oryx with all of these, and that just felt like a misstep. And then I've seen how they've kind of joined them together nicely, so I've warmed to the way that these guys look, without a doubt. Okay, so I'm just going to do a dry fit to make sure that I'm putting this guy together right. So as I said, he looks push fit, dead simple, push them all together, but I just want to make sure that I'm not putting something together in the wrong order or something along those lines. I'm going to have to check if I've got an extra glue around somewhere, because this one's starting to run out. Well, you can see there where I'm putting the glue. I'm just putting them on those pins there, on that pin there. And then by the look of it, all I need to do now is get the front piece, push it together again. Let's really push that and make sure that it's properly in. As I said, push fit models are far too inclined to pop apart. There we go. Oh gosh, you are beautiful. Look at you. Now, looking at that, I'm going to see how that... because I don't know if that's not in the right position right now, or if I'm going to add something in a bit. I think I'm going to add something in a bit, because that is kind of sticking out and it's not glued. It's not attached to the rest of his face. Let's see what happens when we get part number 7. So there's the base to do, which is kind of like this, and I'll do that in a second, but I just want to make sure the main model is finished. So I'm just going to get his shield. So as one of the positives about this push fit is I don't have to glue this shield on. I can just leave it a bit loose for painting. See, I'm a story-driven person. I can't paint a miniature unless it evokes a story to me. So I've already kind of had some trolls for a while. Some from the Gloom Spygits, the Rot Gut ones. Yeah, that's nice and simple. It just slides on there, so which is great, because I'm just gonna... so it's a really simple pop on there. This is great, because obviously what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that for painting. So in some ways, push fit, get some points, because I'm going to be able to pop that off and pop it on and off for painting. Okay, so it gets a few points for that. Right, okay then. Now, it seems strange to me that that thing there is not attached. I mean, maybe that's just me. And maybe I'm missing a concept in the design, or maybe I've not pushed it in enough. Again, one of my dislikes about push fits is right there. It feels like maybe Something hasn't slid in where it's supposed to. Yeah, I've double checked and it's definitely all the way in. So it's obvious that that thing there doesn't connect. Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure. I really find, you know, I suppose that's going to make it easier to get my paintbrush in there to paint his face. Right, now to do the scenic base. So I'm glad that these things have scenic bases. So for the scenic base, we are going to use 4, 5, and 6. It's this here. He's obviously a pretty strong fella and he's took down a Stormcast there. Ooh, now you see I've just noticed something as well. That's not for the Grot, that's for the Killboss, and it's an extra weapon. So I'm glad I've not glued his... I'm glad I've not glued his shield on. Because once I know a bit more about the rules, I can decide if I want him to have extra armour or extra weapons. Right, so we have this, which looks like it's a nice just push fit into there. Now, obviously, I'm just going to glue that on so that it's attached. And then I'm going to assume that this other section goes there. That's the obvious positioning for it, isn't it now? Where does that go? How does that fit on? It goes there, it's obvious. Keep saying it's obvious. There we go, just get it properly fit in. Now, so obviously the Killboss steps on top of that, but I'm just going to get this mace off as well so I can have a look at the different styling. Now, I reckon if I do this right, I might even be able to magnetise these parts so that I can just swap them over, which would be even cooler. Because there's nothing better than putting a bit of variation in your models. Go on, let's have a look at him like that. I'm just going to wiggle this off. Let's have a look at him with this this change of weapon and see what we like about him. There we go. So that's what he looks like with his alternative weapon. So I really like that. I think that looks cool. So I think I'm going to have to find a way to allow both of those options. Okay. I'm just going to glue this down now. Nice and simple. Glue it to this base. Make sure it's nice and solid. Down. Using both of those pins up. Clip it down. Get it on there. Make sure it dries. And then of course he pops on top of here. I'm not going to push him too hard because I really want to be able to paint him, sub-assembly him during the paint. Oh, actually, then again, his foot's properly in the base, isn't it? It's not like the other one. Okay, so that's that part dealt with. Now the little Stab-Grot. So this looks actually quite simple. You get 9 and you get 10. Looking at him as well, this little Stab-Grot now. He looks a hell of a lot more like a regular goblin from Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So we have the Gloomspite Gits, who obviously live deep in the caves. Now, for me, that's an obvious hark back to the Night Goblins. That's pretty obvious. You know, you can see in the... You can see they're obviously Night Goblins. There's no other way to put it. Yeah, they're the same miniatures. But the Gloomspite Gits do not seem to have regular goblins. I think they've got forest goblins, but the actual regular goblins seem to have been written out of the lore for the most part. Now, what I can see here is a proper little gobbo. Right. Then 11, and then 12 for his head. Just trying to make sure that I've tidied that up proper. Obviously, if you're new to this kind of thing, modelling, then it's, you know, it's a good idea to play it. You know, just be careful. Don't go around, if you can help it, using a Stanley knife. Get a proper scalpel, because they're a cleaner. You're far less likely to cause yourself a serious injury with a scalpel, oddly enough. Obviously, a scalpel will create a very clean cut, but I can assure you, a scalpel will just dig right down to the bone if you slip. And I know that from experience, because I've done it and ended up having to take a trip to hospital to get stitches in my thumb. Because when I was younger, I stabbed myself with the knife then, with that little knife there, not the scalpel. Yeah, they got sharp bits, these models, but yeah, basically a scalpel will slice your thumb, it'll cut your finger or whatever else, yeah, but the reality is it's unlikely to slice all the way down to the bone. Or at least that's been my experience when I've slit with a scalpel. Painful, but, you know, not absolutely terrible. And obviously, if you're doing this stuff with your little kids, if you're learning with your little kids, you know, then just monitor them, because they'll get a bit excited and probably want to go for it, won't they? Okay, and then this little gobbin's arm going in. There we go. He's a nice little guy, isn't he? Look at him. Got his little shield. He wants to work with his boss. I hope in some ways they find a way to bring Grom the Paunch back. It's an awesome goblin leader. I'm sure they might consider doing it in the new Warhammer Fantasy Battles that's coming out eventually. Now, this little foot here, what do I need to do with it? Yeah, I'm just checking. Right, so this little foot here, you got to bend it a little bit and slide it into the base. Okay, there we go. Right, Right, so there we have it. That is the Killboss and his little goblin. And of course, you can go for the shield, or you can go for the big flail. I personally love the look of the flail, but, you know, obviously it would be possible, and I'll probably do that on some other video, working out how to magnetise them so I can swap them over during different fights. They look easy enough to magnetise.